Very good morning to everyone present here today. With warm greetings, gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining in and for joining in on time. On behalf of the Board of Directors, Executive Committee, and staff of MarkWillows Foundation, we welcome you. We're super excited to have you join us today, 31st of July, 2021, and it's the last day of the month, the beginning of great things for us as we launch the first National Social Emotional Learning Conference powered by MarkWillows Foundation. My name is Foyinsola Bamidele, and I am the Executive Director and a trustee of MarkWillows Foundation, and I will be your anchor for this event. Once again, it's such a delight to have you today. Thank you for being very punctual. It's amazing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can we have some comments in the chat room? I hope you can hear me. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so amazing. Thank you for your response. Thank you very much. So before we kick off, I will appreciate it if we could maybe post more comments in the chat room just to be sure that we can hear. Yes, the comments are rolling in. Great, fantastic. You can introduce yourself, tell us your name, the organization or the school you work with, where you're joining from. I'm joining from Lagos. Feel free to send that in the chat room. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for your comments. Thank you so much. So before we dive into today's business, I'll give us a breakdown of how the conference will go. We'll start by introducing some key individuals and giving a brief introduction of the foundation. There'll be 2 keynote addresses. We'll have 2 panel sessions. We'll have a photography session, and we'll be pleased to have you turn on your camera during this session so that we can take the photographs. And we'll also have a question and answer session, although not in the exact order that I just mentioned. But this promises to be very educative, very interactive and enlightening. And we look forward to you garnering sufficient information on the topics being discussed today. So please, I want to plead with us to ensure that we are muted at all times except when or if we have to speak. I'm having to mute a lot of people, and it will be wonderful if we can all just stay muted. So let's dive into today's business without further ado. Please join me. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chats. I'm seeing a lot of chats coming. Wow. Wow, wonderful. Welcome. I'm seeing here, good morning, I can hear you. Basi Felicia from Lagos, Mrs. Beauty Namege, I hope I pronounced that right, joining from Lagos. Ajayi Oluwaseun from Lagos. Bola Lawal from Lagos. Okay, wow. It's like majority of people. Yeah. Oh, Patricia's iPhone. Patricia joining from London, amazing. We have someone joining from Lagos as well. Thank you all for your comments. Holy Child College, Southwest Ikoyi, wonderful. Thank you all for your chats. It's so good.
Busy bio.
Please make sure that we mute ourselves.
No video now.
Muted, please. I'm finding it difficult to mute here. Okay. It's muting now. Great. Okay, Okay, please stay muted. Some people keep unmuting themselves. Please stay muted. Okay, so let's dive into today's business. Without further ado, please join me to welcome the convener of the National Alliance for Social Emotional Learning and Soft Skills, the founder of MarkWillows Foundation, in person of Mr. Peace Bamidele. Please show some excitement in the chat room as we welcome him. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning to everybody. Okay, sorry about that. Everybody trust we're doing well. I can see a lot of excitement in the room. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peace Bamidele, and I'm so excited to have you here in the room. Thank you so much all over the country. That is why it is called a National Social and Emotional Learning Conference. I can see a lot of people across Lagos, even outside Nigeria. We warmly welcome you this morning. We can see somebody from Akinto, from London, MD Schools. Thank you very much. Chayulu Ashegun, I can see you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in this morning. It promises to be very informative, very exciting, and very educative. Okay, without further ado, I'm just going to dive right into today's session. I'm here to give us a welcome address, just to give us an understanding of what we are hoping to achieve this morning. Okay, this is the MarkWillows Foundation, and this is the National Social and Emotional Learning Virtual Conference. Okay, so we're going to be here till 12. I urge you to be patient and attentive and take notes as much as possible. It's a learning session. There's so much to learn and glean from. Okay, so I'll dive right in. I want to give you a brief information about MarkWillows Foundation. What is MarkWillows Foundation? What are we about? What are we striving to achieve this morning in the program? Okay, so very quickly, we call ourselves the National Alliance for Social and Emotional Learning and Soft Skills. MarkWillows Foundation is the National Alliance for Social and Emotional Learning and Soft Skills. A quick question that will come to your mind is, what is what is social and emotional learning? Some of us may have heard about soft skills before, but the question that comes to your mind is, what is social and emotional learning? Some of us may be hearing that term for the first time. I'm just here to just immediately clear the air and just make you understand what this concept is about. Now, quickly, social is the process, okay? It's the process through which, okay, if you are here in the room, kindly mute yourselves, okay? Mute yourselves, very important you all mute yourselves so that there are no interruptions anywhere, okay? Now, social and emotional learning is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy and others, for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. Okay, you can agree with me that this is a very packed definition of social and emotional learning. There's a whole lot of things that happen when we say social and emotional learning. And the entire concept is built around the fact that we are focused so much on academics at the detriment of the social and emotional side of a child. And so when we're talking about social and emotional learning, we're saying attention now needs to be turned into the social and emotional aspect of children in classrooms, of youth at work, of even our lives. And why is this very important? Why is this very important? Okay, before I explain why it's important, our simple vision at the foundation is very straightforward. Our vision is to build a prosperous Nigeria where all learners and youths are empowered with skills that arm them for success in school, work, and all aspects of life. That's the vision of MarkWillows Foundation. All learners and youths are empowered with skills that arm them for success in school, work, and all aspects of life. And what is the mission that goes with this? The mission is simple, is that we want to inspire all stakeholders, and I'm happy that most of us in the room here are all stakeholders in the educational sector. Whether you're a parent or a teacher, a student, you're here, you want to learn, you're a young person, we want to inspire and equip all relevant stakeholders concerned with students and youth in Nigeria with information and resources that promote quality and equitable social and emotional learning and soft skills in schools, homes, and workplaces, okay? All stakeholders. That is the vision, that's the mission of MarkWillows Foundation. Very quickly, why did we set about to achieve all of this? Why did we set about to achieve all of this? Many of you will remember that last year there was COVID-19 that struck. In May 2020, COVID struck. Many of the students were at home. They weren't going to school. Schools were shut down. A lot of stressors and challenges, okay? And nobody can tell what can happen in the future. Similar occurrences may happen. Nobody's praying for another COVID. But even here in Lagos, there's a talk about the third wave, fourth wave, and all of those conversations. Schools may be shut down. And what we realized was that many students found it very difficult to adjust back to school. Even when school was opened later on, they found it difficult to connect back with their classmates. Some of them were sleeping in class. And what has become obvious is that there's a gap. We need to prepare our students for similar occurrences in the future. And there's need to go beyond just emphasis on academic learning to skills that can prepare students for the challenges of the 21st century. There was EndSARS last year. Many children couldn't grapple with that. There was pandemic, many people lost their father, lost their mother. Some children couldn't grapple with that. We need to begin to teach our children what is called skills of the 21st century, resilient skills, and all of the skills that will help them prepared for the future. And secondly is the need for us to begin to retrain our teachers. Okay, right now teachers are also dealing with a lot. Many of them come to school and they're having to deal with students from different backgrounds, especially in a country like Nigeria, you have Igbo speaking, Hausa speaking, Yoruba speaking, from different backgrounds. And to add to that is the fact that many of the students are digitally savvy. Okay, they are exposed to all kinds of technology. And so if you as a teacher, you are not adequately prepared, you are not sufficiently trained to handle the complexities of the kind of children you have, okay, in your classroom, okay, you are in for it, okay? And then in addition to that also is the fact that we have realized that many students are engaging in all sorts of risky behaviors. Some of them are substance abuse, violence, bullying, unprotected sexual intercourse with multiple partners, all sorts of mental health difficulties many students are facing. And we cannot be focusing on, oh, pass your exam, certificate, get this. No, we need to begin to pay attention to the social and emotional aspect of the life of a child, okay? And then immediately after that, also connected to that is the fact that even at work right now, many companies and organizations, okay, they have observed that many young people lack requisite skills that employers need. Okay, employers need young people who have certain skills and competencies. Okay, so the future of work is talking a lot about skills. There's a growing mismatch between youth skills and employers' needs. You find a young person employed and you realize that they can't collaborate effectively. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to communicate effectively. They don't know how to manage their anger. They don't know how to plan. They lack leadership skills. This skills gap is a major gap. And that is why we said, okay, let's start this foundation. This foundation is going to be about training young people, training teachers, training students about what is called social and emotional learning. And so what are the key questions we want to answer today? What are the key questions that social and emotional learning will answer? Okay, we may not be able to answer all these questions today. It's a short conference. Some of our other programs, which we will talk about later on, we address these questions. But number one, first question, how can education equip all young people with the skills and competencies for rapidly evolving economies and the digital revolution? There's a digital revolution. Right now, we're talking about Internet of Things. We're talking about artificial intelligence. There's all kinds of technology. How can we prepare our young children for this kind of technology? Also, how can we improve learning outcomes, okay, in all kinds of contexts? There's Boko Haram in the north, there's this in the south, there's kidnapping, there's violence, all sorts of things. How can we ensure that students are still learning? Number three, with depression being one of the leading causes of adolescent ill health and disability worldwide, what can education do to help promote psychological well-being? There was a case of a young child that committed suicide just because she failed an exam. That's depression. They don't know how to manage emotions and all of those kind of things. Okay, depression is on the rise everywhere. So that is another question. Number 4, with societies more fluid and fragmented than ever, how can we help young people feel confident in their own identities and vested in community at local to global levels? Many things there. There's social media, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's TikTok. And many of these young people, they see these things, they interpret their identity based on what they see on social media. And they can see things online and say, I want to be like this person. They are not finding their own identity in themselves. They're interpreting themselves based on what they are seeing online. How can we ensure that young people are more confident in themselves? They are not threatened by what they are seeing out there, what their mates are doing, and begin to feel depressed and want to commit suicide? And the next one, the last one, how can schools foster initiative, resilience, and entrepreneurial spirit? Okay, how can we make our students to be more resilient in tough times? How can we make them to be innovative, to be creative, to bring something, to bring solutions, to be entrepreneurial, to start businesses, to not depend on the government? Okay, how can we make sure these questions are answered? How can we revitalize? And that's why the theme of this conference is repurposing education. We need to begin to think about how we can repurpose education. So what are the key strengths? It has been discovered that there are 3 major benefits when you teach SEL in a school. SEL is social and emotional learning. It's one intervention, but research has shown that whenever social and emotional learning is embedded in an educational sector, there's increased academic achievement. I can't go into the details, but that's a statistics that shows that whenever SEL is embedded, there's increased academic achievement. It also shows that there's improved behavior. Students behave better. It also shows that there's strong return on investment. For every dollar that you invest, okay, in SEL, there's massive returns on investment. These are not things we are cooking up. These are facts and statistics that have been researched, and that's why we're bringing these things to Nigeria. It's not a conversation that has started in a very big form in Nigeria, okay? It's something that is still developing. It is still expanding. And so most of this research are based from what is happening over there in Europe, in North America. And that's why we need to begin to intensify in these conversations here in Nigeria. Okay, so quickly, today's conference is very straightforward. We are not here to talk so much about social and emotional learning, even though that's what we're going to be doing, okay? We just want to introduce this concept to the world. There are other things that we're going to be doing after now, such as our social and emotional learning certification for teachers, okay? We'll talk more about that by the end of today's conference. So without further ado, I'm going to be welcoming somebody who is very dear to my heart, okay? The anchor is going to introduce her better, but I just thought to share with you my personal experience with her. She's been my lecturer for over 10 years, 15 years, even though I went through her in school, but she mentored to me. She's somebody I respect highly, and she's going to give the much needed sense of seriousness. She's an associate professor of education, and that's going to be the next thing that we're going to go on, okay? This is what the agenda is like. The anchor has set the tone already, okay? The next thing is going to be the keynote address by this very special guest of honor whom I revere and admire a lot, okay? So before she comes up, I'm going to hand over to the anchor, Mrs. Foyimpis Babele, to welcome her warmly, and so you get to understand who she is, okay? Over to you now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bamidele. That was an amazing opening. Thank you so much. Yes. To move ahead with the conversation today, we are highly honored and excited to have with us an astute senior lecturer, an associate professor of the Department of Arts and Social Science Education of the University of Lagos, who also serves as the chairman of the board of directors of MarkWillows Foundation, in person of Dr. Mrs. Oyenike Adeosun. We welcome you, Doctor, as you deliver the keynote address on the topic, the need for social and emotional learning in the education sector. Please, let's show some excitement in the chat room. It's such an honor to have you, Doctor. Welcome. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Bamidele. All I can say is that you're doing well and I'm proud of you. I am so excited to be part of this conversation on SEL has been explained to us by Bamidele. My name, as introduced, is Dr. Yenike Adeosun. And my assignment this morning is very simple. It's just to further explain to us why we need to integrate, why we need to incorporate social and emotional learning into our educational system, especially in Nigeria. I welcome every one of us here, and I'm sure we're going to have an exciting conversation in this conference. Let me share my screen now so that will go along with me. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. Yes. Hello. Okay, thank you. Okay, you're welcome. The flyer for the conference is on the slide 1. But I'm going to start out with why do we need to repurpose, review, re-energize, refocus on education, especially during, this post-COVID world. Though we are not yet fully out of COVID, but we are hopeful that very soon we'll be able to combat the pandemic seriously. So why repurposing education? The first reason is that, let me just rely on a citation from Darlene Hammond and her colleagues. They are always very working on education, especially teacher education. So there is a citation from his writing in 2017. And I'm going to focus on those bold areas. The need, the essence that we're facing complex problems that we are seemingly unable to solve. As we are beginning to solve some are becoming very elusive. You see, that is why we are even having a third strain of the COVID-19. And therefore, our education must focus on how to move ahead beyond our problems. How do we envisage? How do we envision? How do we produce students, individuals who can proactively advance forward and creatively solve problems? And that is the concern of Darlene Hammond in 2017. And some of us may argue that technology is actually helping us a lot, in equipping our students with the skills that are needed, even to face the complex world that we are. But let me tell you, technology cannot do everything. It's not even doing it for all the context, all the environment that we can experience in Africa. And even in recent times, technology have limitations. Let me just support this with my explanation. Now, technology cannot teach all the needed skills. We know that the current generation of students are referred to as, Generation Z, Generation Y, Generation Alpha, so on. And they have so many beautiful abilities and competencies that those of us that were their parents will not even match them. They are more intelligent, they are more open-minded, they are more, diversity connected, they are more creative. But there are other complications as a result of their overly dependence or overly exposure to technology. The first one is that they are beginning to exhibit a lot of poor social skills. They just want to be alone. They don't want to mix. And when they want to mix at all, they would rather mix online. So because they are more focused on convenience and efficiency, they always want to conduct all their businesses online, including consulting with a doctor, including virtual appointments, including dating. Everything has to be online. And because of this, interpersonal relationships is being compromised. Another thing is that the more they are using technology to navigate the world, the more technology is adding to the ambiguity of the world. So you see that they have to keep sharpening their skills, even to be, or on the same page with technology. And all of this together is adding serious pressure to their mental health. It's been reported by researchers that feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and depression are actually on the rise, especially among the new generation. Now, the second one is that this digital nativity that we're talking about is not common, especially for us on the other side of the digital divide, especially in Africa. A lot of African children are left out of digitalization because of their special position in terms of challenges, poverty, displacement, a lot of exclusion. They don't have the advantages, they don't have the skills, they don't have even the infrastructures, even to migrate and even navigate this digital world. And therefore, we have bulk of children in Africa, in Nigeria, that are regarded as vulnerable, illiterate or semi-illiterate, half-baked, and even out of school children, which as at the last count is over 12 million in Nigeria alone. The third one now is that even as we're using technology to combat some of the challenges of the world, COVID-19 came up. And when COVID-19 came on, we seem to discover that the human race is very vulnerable. We've been able to use technology to solve a lot of issues, but COVID-19 has shown us that we are very, very vulnerable and that we need to keep preparing. We need to keep preparing ahead. We need to keep thinking ahead. We need to value one another even in the process. And therefore, the concern, for education in terms of review, in terms of refocusing, in terms of redesigning, is that we should look at how to develop new skills and abilities to adapt to this complex world as well as sustaining. We need to also look at, educating beyond borders so that for internalization and global dependency, because we realize that we cannot do a lot on our own. We have to develop, we have to depend on other people of other race, other groups, and so on to be able to navigate the world. Another thing is that we have to be more human in our endeavors. We have to promote socialization even in the face of digitalization for those who are digital natives and those who are left out. And therefore, SEL, social and emotional learning, seems to provide, some of these answers. And this is the focus of my presentation, which is social and emotional learning in Nigerian education and why it matters. I'm going to run through the slide. COVID-19 has been able to bring out a lot of emotional garbages that we carry. And these garbages are actually affecting our current experiences and how we deal with them, affecting our relationships, affecting what we're learning and how we're learning, affecting our career and even life choices. And therefore, educators must be conscious about addressing the emotional needs of students who are even returning back to school. Some of them are even not yet in school because of lockdown, limited social contact, even loss of loved one, domestic violence, and everything. A lot of these have been reported as being more aggravated, especially because of COVID-19 pandemic. What are the sources of this trauma that we're talking about? Let me refer us to the 2021 emergency watch list. The International Rescue Committee, they're always predicting, ahead every year about areas the world should focus on in terms of humanitarian emergencies. And for the report towards the end of 2020, they predicted for 2021 that we are having, the worst humanitarian crisis as we have now because of COVID-19. A lot of issues that had been addressed before because of the FA goals, poverty, hunger, diseases, are coming back, with full force. and we need to be ahead. Now to further show, there are 10 countries that were flagged, as being, under the watch list. And 6 of these 10 countries are from Africa. There are combined threats of conflict, climate change, COVID-19, hunger, and so on, affecting most of these countries, in Africa and some other parts of Asia. And Nigeria is placed number 8 out of the 10 countries on the list because of conflicts involving criminal groups. We have cases of kidnapping, armed robbers, and so on around, and community self-defense groups, the IPOB people, the Oduduwa people, everybody asking for cessation and so forth. It's actually aggravating our sense of security and somehow also affecting school system. So we are much more among the core focus of the global learning crisis. There is lack of quality access. Even though a lot of children are out of school, but even those who are out of school are not receiving quality learning. And we cannot even keep them in school because of the environment. So there is high dropout rates, there is very high illiteracy, and most countries that are affected, like we said, are in Africa, and Nigeria is inclusive. So the Nigerian child is battling with a lot of issues that can distract him from achieving his goals, from achieving his learning goals, from achieving his life goals. All these issues are there in different dimensions across all areas, or all ethnic groups in Nigeria. And therefore, there are a lot of stressors, affecting how individuals in Nigeria will cope with learning, academic learning, how they're going to respond to themselves and their environment and even other people, and how their personalities would be formed. And therefore, there are lots of psychological and emotional implications. Nobody is excluded, because we are all witness to this. We all experience some of this in different dimensions. And all this is actually affecting the formation of a well-balanced personality that is very important for this generation. And what do we have as a result? Value crisis. Media reports of crimes and violence, agitation. Everybody is just behaving like, I'm just a lord unto myself. We have serious value crisis. And a lot of this is being promoted by social media, immoralities, violence, and so on. Then we have serious soft skills gap. Soft skills gap because these soft skills, collaboration, self-confidence, critical thinking, and so on, are not as being pronounced as before. And we need to start thinking about how do we bring them back into the system. Because, like is reported here, we are all in danger when the world events to continue to teach, when children grow up with academic knowledge, with technical skills, but they lack essential and emotional skills such as compassion and empathy. So we are in serious danger, and therefore we need to start thinking seriously about how to integrate these social and emotional skills into education. We have to start thinking about new ways of thinking and working and relating with other people, how to develop a sense of trust and cooperation and then compassion, how to act independently and adjust to life changes, how to develop tolerance and respect, empathy, generosity, and ability to cooperate with other people. And at the end of the day, all of those who help us to have individuals with well-balanced personality. And these are very critical to having a well-functioning society. And most especially in Nigeria, we need to have children, learners, individuals, adults who have enhanced cognitive and metacognitive skills, which are critical and creative thinking, problem solving skills, and so on, but adequately regulated with soft skills, which are the social and emotional competencies. And has been also proven that because of the kind of conflict that we have all around, SE has been used to actually combat conflict, mostly in African countries. I understand that you said it's actually using social and emotional learning to rehabilitate adults, children, women who has been through some level of crisis due to Boko Haram, their displacement, and so on in the north. And they have really been able to do a lot of job in this area, also in some other places in Africa. So also, there are educational frameworks that guide what we do globally, in education. And I've been able to bring out 4 of these frameworks. And when I studied these frameworks, I discovered that they are all focused 70% on emotional and social and emotional skills. These frameworks are as listed. I want to encourage you to go through them at your spare time. The references are there. Now, when I look at these frameworks, for UNESCO in 1996 actually has a document that was an investigative document that reported on learning the treasure beneath. And the document came out with what we call the 4 pillars of learning: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, learning to be. When we study each of these 4 pillars, we discover that there is none that can be attained fully without focus on social and emotional skills. The same thing with other frameworks by OECD, by Partnership for 21st Century Skills, and ATC 21st Century. Please, I want to encourage you, because of time, I will not be able to go into the details. But I discovered that those areas that were colored actually focus more on social and emotional skills. And therefore, as educators, as teachers, as parents, we don't have a choice than to start looking, if we're not even doing it already, to start looking into how to consciously bring these skills into our system. These soft skills have been summarized into 5 core areas: self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and relationship skills. I'm sure subsequent presentations will dwell more on this. And traditionally, you discover as educators that we can say the social emotional skills have been part of what we call the hidden curriculum. But because it is hidden, it is either not learned at all, because people learn it unconsciously or even, ignore it. So it's either not learned at all, it is learned by few people, learned partially, or even learned negatively. So what are we saying here? We're saying that the current focus of education should be how to incorporate social-emotional learning for all students through deliberate teaching of content and processes, through conscious modeling by teachers and parents, and by providing our students and our children the opportunity to hone the skills, both in simulated situations and in real situations. We don't have a choice. It's something that we have to do seriously now. And in conclusion, I have some projects here that has to do with social and emotional skills, as given, by writers, literary artists, politicians, world presidents, and so on. And the one that actually struck me more of most out of these is the one by Eleanor Roosevelt that says to handle yourself, you use your head. To handle others, you use your heart. Meaning that we cannot achieve success without a serious blending, a serious combination, a balanced use of intelligent quotient and emotional quotient. It's very important that our educational system should start looking at this blending so that we can have individuals with well-balanced personality who will make up a well-functioning society for us. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I wish you happy conferencing subsequently. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Wow, that was an explosive session. Thank you for that call to action. In fact, I've already gotten so much from this. If just going home with this is enough. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Doctor. Okay, are we ready? We will dive into the next session now. We'll be diving into the panel session. And to take us through the panel session is no other person but an amazing financial advisory professional, a senior associate with PricewaterhouseCoopers Nigeria, popularly known as PwC. I'm sure you're wondering how she's connected to education. So this is the link. She is the founder of DOTS Education, an education outreach initiative for undeserved communities. And she is also a member of the executive committee of MarkWillows Foundation. So it's over to you here. I'm going to mention her name now, Miss Olayinka Adebayo. We're glad to have you here, Ma. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Foyinsala Bamidele, for that stellar introduction. And thank you to Dr. Adeosun for that profoundly insightful session. I mean, there were a lot of key takeaways from that session, and you sort of took us into a deep dive on the importance, on how we need to make SEL learning in the classroom and in schools more obvious. And so to take us into the next session, of course, my name is Adebayo Olayinka, as Mrs. Foyinshala has rightly introduced, and I'll be your anchor for this. I'll be anchoring this first panel session. And I've already checked, can we all see me? I think, yes, right? I think my video is on already. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can. We can.
Okay. All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I've checked our meeting hall already, and I've seen that our amazing panelists are already around. So without further ado, I'll just be introducing them. And we have three experts in the SEL learning sector that are going to be delivering insights and just going to be sharing further insights with us this amazing morning. And again, I just want to thank every participant here for investing your time with us and for deciding to be a partaker in this discussion and stakeholder this morning. So, like I said, we have three panelists. We have Miss or Mrs. Shenwa Wodiji. We have Mr. Emmanuel Ironagbe and Mr. Feyi Faneyi. And I will just be reading out their profiles, their amazing profiles, as I invite them to the panel. I would please ask our panelists to also put on their videos so that we can see them and interact with them better as we go through this panel session. So I'll start with Mrs. or Mrs. I'm sure you correct me when you come on board. Shenwa Wodiji. Shenwa Wodiji is an astute numeracy educator with Green Schools Lagos. Our periodic holiday coaching on mathematics for students is a major delight. For parents, as great improvements are recorded every time she teaches, and Shenwa brings decades of classroom experience to the National SEL Conference, and we are honored to have her deliver on the topic, managing the emotions of students in the classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please welcome Miss or Mrs. Shenwa Wodiji to the panel table, like invisible panels table, yes. And then, so our next panel speaker would be Mr. Emmanuel Ironagbe. Mr. Emmanuel Ironagbe is an educator with a wealth of experience spanning decades, as he has served as school manager, proprietor, principal in multiple schools, and his understanding of how school owners should manage employees effectively is dynamic. And today we'll be addressing questions on the emotionally intelligent school manager. Can we have Mr. Emmanuel? I think I'm trying to see the side-by-side guy. Okay, Mr. Sean, Okay, Mr. Emmanuel Unagbe, very good to have you on the panel, sir. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Fei Faniyi, who is a mental health therapist in the United States with a master's degree in social work. And as a therapist, he evaluates and diagnoses individuals with physical limitations and that affect their ability to perform daily functions. Welcome as well, Mr. Fei Faniyi. Thank you very much for accepting our invite and for deciding to be on our panel today. So I'll start with you, Ms. Sheon, or Mrs. Sheon. So I'm sure you're very experienced working with students, and from your decades of experience, we've seen that you've had to relate with different students, Generation Z, Generation Alpha. So I'd like to just start with you and ask you that what kinds of disruptive emotions and behaviors do students display? Have we started to see students display in the classroom now? And what are the usual causes of this? What would you think, in your opinion, based on your experience, are the usual causes of these disruptive behaviors?
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Great, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. Yes, so you said Generation Z. I actually love Generation Zs. They're just amazing, because I feel that I'm deviating a bit, but I just needed to say this. I feel that they're very vocal and they're very incisive as well. They're deep. Right, so my question says, what kind of disruptive behaviors? So this can be relative, and the causes, I'll start off with the causes. Causes for me, based on my experience, would be no boundaries at home, in terms of a child is just allowed to do whatever they please. So there are no boundaries from the house. The child has, no strategies to manage emotions and does not follow rules, because if the child says, I want A is given. Child says, I want B is given, right? So there are no boundaries, and a child is not, able to manage their emotions. So now, what kind of emotions or rather disruptive behaviors have I seen? One would be just blotting out during a lesson. And to the child, it will be funny. So you're teaching a lesson, everywhere is quiet, and then you just hear someone say something silly and everybody starts to laugh. Of course, that disrupts any class and you will have to redirect. That'll take a lot of time. So a child just blotting out of order. Another one would be in response to maybe a teacher's, if a teacher scolds a child. I've had children, slamming the door. Maybe if you say, oh, step out for a second, slamming the door or kicking a chair. Yeah. And I'm, of course, talking back. That's like, so you've said something and they're talking back, and you're giving them the stern look, they're talking back, so I would like to limit it to those three for now. So, just talking out of turn. You've given your rules at the beginning of a lesson, but you just find that one child who just does not follow instructions, of course, negative, like, I don't want to say it's anger, but kicking chairs, that's quite common. Slamming the door, or just, trying to feel like they don't,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you so much, Ms. Sheon. So is it Miss or Mrs. Sheon?
It's Miss. It's Miss.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Miss Sheon,
Yes.
for that, for those responses. I mean, no boundaries, talking out of turn, and just erratic behaviors, right? And so that just means that teachers now have to take on more responsibilities in managing the students. It's not just about teaching them, now it's about managing their emotional behaviors as well. And so I'll just be coming over to you, Mr. Fei, and just to ask that, granted, and knowing now that teachers are saddled with the responsibility of managing the emotional behaviors and emotional framework of a child, and not just teaching them or merely teaching them, I want to ask you, what are the uncommon causes or common stressors that teachers are facing now, or people are facing now, that they are not aware of, and beyond what they go through in the classroom? So beyond what we understand, that teachers are also humans, and they have their own emotions, they have their own family. So what are these uncommon stressors that teachers face beyond what they go through in the classroom?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I would say that there are a lot of stressors, but I've taken down a few stresses here. I think that number one is probably trauma, environmental type stressors or psychological type stressors. A lot of teachers have, they also have backgrounds. They also have to go home. They were also children at one point in time, right? And some of them have been, you know, I've either had to grow up in like poverty, or have had some type of event happen to them where, you know, something that they're still battling. Like, you know, people say we all have our battles. For example, some examples of trauma could be, you know, sexual abuse as a child, getting robbed, getting shot, witnessing like gun violence, and, you know, things like that, things that nobody's expecting. So that's one thing that I believe could be an external stressor or an uncommon stressor, outside of what teachers go through on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Faye. I mean, in this part of the world, in Africa, we are so we are very good at, we've gotten very good at brushing our emotions under the carpet, and we don't understand, or we're not able to identify these emotions and how they impact our relationship with others. And for example, in the case of teachers, how they affect, how they impact learning and education to the students that they teach. So I just want to stay with you, Faye, and just to ask that what exactly is mental health? So what, for some people, different people have different definitions and things that they consider what mental health is. Some people think if they're just happy, they have money, they are okay mentally. So what is mental health? And then what are the simple strategies that teachers can deploy in improving their own mental health now?
The simplest definition I can give for mental health is just feeling safe, right? Feeling safe mentally, feeling safe in every aspect of life, right? Feeling like you've accomplished something to a lot of people. There's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it talks about like psychological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, which I've heard some of the speakers speak about today, and self-actualization. If a person doesn't have these things in their life, they're gonna feel like they're not, they're unhappy, like they haven't arrived in the world, right? So I think that that's what mental health is. The other question was teachers and what can they apply,
The simple
what
strategies.
strategies can they deploy? So it's, I would like to say it's simple, but growing up in Nigeria, having some backgrounds, I've seen how things can be there. Some things I would say are self-care. I hope, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that term before, right? Just doing things for yourself, like taking a day off, or if you can, going out to eat, spending time with friends. Those are some things that I think that could be helpful. Like those are some strategies that I think could be helpful in terms of mental health. Advocating for yourself. I'm pretty sure, I don't know how things are now, but like if a person feels like they're not earning enough money, or they feel like they can't provide for their family, right? How well will they feel mentally, right? Self-actualization, I think, is one of the greatest goals of a lot of people, humans in general, right? So advocating for yourself, right? Talking to an instructor or talking to a supervisor about maybe getting more pay or getting some time off, having time off policy so you can spend time with your family. Another important thing I would say is building interpersonal relationships. So having friends, family, having a support system, not keeping, I think there's a culture in Nigeria of like when you go through something, you keep it to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Don't share your challenges with people because you might get judged. That's not necessarily true. I think that people should set boundaries, right? And watch who they talk to, that's for sure. But it's always good to have a support system, right? Because if you feel like you're alone in the world, right? If you feel like there's no one you can trust, right? And you have to keep every problem that you have to yourself, then you start to get depressed or anxious, right? And then you start to have the mental health diagnosis from the DSM, right? So I think that having interpersonal relationships, doing some self-care, and self-care is subjective. So whatever you find as self-care is something you should do. And advocating for yourself on a daily basis, like having a voice or trying to have a voice.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those strategies, Faye. And so,
Mhm.
just jumping on, just before we go ahead, go over to Mr. Emmanuel. I'd just like to summarize because some people did not, some of our members did not hear the strategies you shared. Said first, paying attention to yourself and doing things that make you well, make you feel safe, things like going on leave. So that's self-care. The second thing is advocating for yourself. So speaking up if you feel like you're not getting paid, if you feel like you need to, for example, you've been stressed and as a teacher, you need to go on leave, you need to get a teaching assistant to help you with the students. Please speak up, advocate for yourself or try to advocate for yourself. And the last thing is interpersonal relationships. So keep those relationships, have discussions with people, whatever it is you're going through, don't brush your emotions under the carpet, speak to people and let them know what you're going through and let them help you talk through and see through what you're going through. So those were the things that Mr. Faye shared with us. And he summarized mental health as just feeling safe, employing and deploying strategies to ensure that you're feeling safe and you're okay at every time. So I just want to, sort of touch on advocating for yourself as a teacher. And I want to come over to Mr. Emmanuel. And so we've seen that obviously in the conversation of quality education, it's not just the teachers and the students. The school also has a role to play, and it's not just the physical infrastructure that the school is providing. It's also the infrastructure of care to ensure that teachers are thriving and are able to teach students and impact quality education to the students. And Mr. Emmanuel, we started to see that there's some increasing dissatisfaction amongst teachers, being expressed towards school managers and school owners. And so we just wanted to ask, is this conversation really happening amongst teachers? Is there really increasing dissatisfaction? And if there are, what are the causes of this increasing dissatisfaction being expressed towards school managers and school owners? Sorry, sir, Mr. Emmanuel, you're currently muted. Can you unmute? Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, thank you very much for having me. The question is increasing dissatisfaction between school managers and school owners?
Yeah.
All right.
Increasing dissatisfaction expressed by teachers to school managers and school owners.
All right. Yeah, it's in this conversation, actually, there is a lot of dissatisfaction in the teaching profession. And it's actually so loud that sometimes it drowns the effect of the work that teachers are doing.
Yeah.
Part of the thing, the major thing, especially in the private sector, the private sector has a little bit of difference from the public sector.
Yes.
Is the remuneration. In the private sector, the remuneration in most schools is so bad, and that this actually affects the self-esteem of the teachers. For example, during the pandemic period, when it was really on the heat of the peak of the pandemic, teachers were not paid for about 6 months.
Wow.
7 months.
Wow.
And then these are people who virtually live on their salary.
Mm-hmm.
And it boils down to the fact that this dissatisfaction became so potent, so alarming at this period, because teachers realized that they were on their own for the first time in their life. They were really on their own. So teachers became begging other people for money to feed. And then they come back to school, no apologies, and you push them back into the classroom. Psychologically, they are drained. They are not even in it at all. And so this psychological influence, except you are strong enough as a teacher, you have your own personality.
Sorry, Mr. Emmanuel, we can't hear you. We can't hear you clearly. I think your voice has gone a little bit. The volume is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better now.
All right. If you are not psychologically groomed for what is thrown at you as a teacher, it makes you very angry, and then you begin to react negatively to everything that goes around you.
Yeah.
You can imagine somebody who has not been paid for 7 months, returns to school, you push him into the foreign, no training, nothing to synthesize what he has gone through that period, and you just put him into the system again and he keeps working. And so every little thing that happens to him, he flares up. So that's one of the things. Then you talk about the condition of service. Sometimes in some schools, the teacher has to get his marker. As simple as markers. So you give him a marker for a week, and this is not something you can even eat or drink, for example, to say that he ate it or he drank it.
Yeah.
And so the marker stops working in day 2, and then you say, I'm giving you a marker for the week, go and do your work.
Yeah.
So what do you expect that kind of person to do? He becomes angry in class, the students make a mistake, he takes it out on them, he's shouting at everybody, he's reacting. It's a part of the causes. Then again, how does the society see the teacher? Sorry to say, Nigeria is one of the countries where teachers are the last. When you talk about profession, nobody wants to reckon with a teacher, except you know who you are as a person.
Yeah.
So when parents come to school, manhandle teachers, they are abused. Parents, students, society, their immediate bosses, then what do you think will happen? So this dissatisfaction keeps growing day by day. Those of us who have worked in first-class schools, let me say it that way, we don't actually experience these things, and we think it's what we are experiencing in our cozy schools is a general thing. It's not a general thing. It's just a few. Out of 100, maybe 10 don't go through those things. What happened to the remaining 90? So you find out that we keep discussing this issue, and it keeps coming up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel, for those profound insights. So I'll just be coming over to Sheol now, and just sort of merge two questions in one, and just to ask you that now, knowing the unique emotional attributes of this new generation of students that we are teaching, how can teachers now start to evolve their disciplinary measures and effectively teach and educate students to ensure that those behaviors are sort of mitigated, and then we are actually raising responsible citizens of our society? And how can they actually also use words, to encourage good behavior and amongst the students that they teach? Yes.
Okay, so in terms of disciplinary measures, so I'm sure we all know that we're not supposed to, well, most schools I know about, you do not flog, right? So I'm a very big proponent for relationships. I discuss a lot with my children. So first week, we're setting rules, we're understanding each other. I'm telling them about myself. So there's like a bond, there's a relationship. They understand me. Of course, this is easier said than done. It's not this easy, but they understand me. They understand what I want. They know the consequences for action. So basically, we're discussing the rules and regulations of our class together. So if you do this, this is what will happen. In terms of what I do, I take away privileges like break time, and they do not like that because they're like, oh, Mr. Ujiji, we can't be working from 8 a.m. and then you take away the only playtime we have. But I'll be like, you had a choice. We discussed this, so you have to be able to follow through on what we have discussed. I take away privileges. My school also uses a point system whereby you gain points for good behavior, you lose points for bad behavior, but above everything, I feel that it's relationships. So I speak to them a lot, and I tell them, I try to connect with them. I tell them that, look, I'm saying this because I love you. This behavior, that behavior is not right. It's best that you do this. And they understand me. They tell me, oh, Mr. Ojiji, thank you. We appreciate you. Of course, the next minute they're doing something wrong again, So in terms of using words to motivate them, like I said, this is based off of relationships. So I start by letting them know that they're in charge of their learning. For example, oh, Sheon, you're such a fantastic girl. I love you. But, this behavior, that behavior is not, the best for this time. It's not going to allow you to focus on your goals. You know, I also allow them set goals. So basically, I kind of put them in charge of their learning and their life, so that when they're doing any, you know, when they're choosing the wrong behavior or they're doing something that they shouldn't be, they tend to inflect, because I realize that a lot of children are not accountable nowadays. This is based on my opinion. They're not accountable. You know, it's like they're loafing, they're floating, and not on my watch. I'm not going to have that, you know. So I try to help them to be grounded. You must be responsible for yourself and for your life. So if you're doing this, you know that you're going to have that consequence, you know, later. So I feel that helps, even though I will not lie. When we were away from COVID and we came back, they were like different children, and it was literally frustrating. I literally had to go and Google, I'm serious, let's go and Google ways to manage, because they had changed. But I realized that what helped me eventually was still the talking to and allowing them to express themselves. You know, that was what helped, allowing them to express themselves, and, you know, just us discussing. They loved it. They'll be like, oh, I have something to say. I have something to say. So that helped a lot. And I feel that, you know, what I would, or rather my parting words will be that we should try to connect with these children above everything. I said to someone, I felt that children were a bit more emotional generally, you know, because I would say things I would usually say before COVID, and they'll say to me, oh, Mr. Ojiji, that was quite harsh. You were shouting. And I'm like, but you're not listening. I have to shout. You know, but then I realized that was not working anymore. Shouting wasn't working, you know, which is why I said I resorted to just holding on to those relationships and talking to them, you know. So I hope I answered the questions.
Yes, very well. Yes, you did. So having conversations with them, holding them accountable, meaning that they always have a choice to make, and they have to face the consequence of whatever choices they make. Thank you so much, Ms. Shion. And so for our last question, very quickly, we're going to go to Mr. Emmanuel. So now, understanding the entire framework, mental health, how teachers can better you know, instill right behaviors in the classroom, and now understanding the satisfaction between teachers and school owners and school managers. I want to ask you, sir, and just to shed more light on this, what can school managers do to better create a right climate for teachers to thrive and to serve with passion and fulfillment and impact quality education to students in the classroom? Because today's students are tomorrow's leaders in Nigeria and globally. So I wanted to ask what's your take on that as we round up the panel session, sir. You're muted again, sir. Can you please unmute?
All right.
Loud and clear.
I think empathy would do a lot of good. Empathy. Can you hear me well?
No, sir. There's some background noise.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's better now.
I think empathy will do a very good thing in that regard. I think school managers, school owners have to actually empathize with teachers. Empathy is different from sympathy. When a teacher is going through something, you need to understand what he's going through, and then try to understand how you could be of help to that teacher. And then also understanding each teacher's shortcomings. If you know a teacher has some shortcomings, then you send the teacher for training. It's not about sacking people or punishment. The teacher wants to do well. Send the teachers for training.
Wow.
And the aspect that he has those shortcomings.
Yeah.
And then we should also learn to respond to the teachers rather than react.
Yeah.
Most of the time, school managers do react. We don't respond, we react. We think we are responding, rather we are reacting. Reaction or reacting is different from responding. So we need to take our time to understand that these people also have families that they cope with. And a lot of things have gone wrong in society. So when they come to school, we need to train them to say that, okay, drop all the problems you're bringing from home at the school gate. When you come in, just know that you're here to train other people's children. No, it's easier said than done, but it has to be done because that's the profession we found ourselves. Then again, we need to learn to celebrate the teachers, celebrate their birthdays, celebrate their weddings. I see banks calling me on my birthday, sending me messages. Hey, for God's sake, it keeps me tied to them. That brings loyalty. You know you are remembered. You know you are valued. All these things need to be done and much more. We don't have time for that.
Yes, thank you so much. I heard you say, number one, school managers should empathize with teachers, and they should sort of help teachers work through their shortcomings by training them and not just sacking them. And then number three is to respond to teachers rather than react. And then lastly is to celebrate teachers and make them know that they are appreciated and honored. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, and Faye and Sheon. Thank you so much for being on our panel session today and delivering those profound insights. Thank you very much. And so I'm just going to be passing the ball back to Mrs. Foyinsola Bamidele as she takes us on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you so much again, sirs and ma. Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me too.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you. We'll be diving into the next session. Before we do that, please bear in mind that we'll be having the photography session right after this session. So we'll appreciate it if we can turn on our cameras and take the pictures. We also would like you to follow us on social media, MarkWillows FDN on all social media platforms. We are very active on social media, especially the most popular social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We've been posting, so you can repost, tag us, just let people know that something is happening in Lagos today, in Nigeria today. So to deliver the second address, it's my honor and such a privilege to welcome Comfort Bamidele Walboomers, a first-class graduate with 2 master's degrees, one in developmental psychology and the other in development and socialization in childhood and adolescence. She's a mother of 2 beautiful children, serves as a child psychologist and behavioral therapist, and works with children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorders from across the world. So for the next 15 minutes, she'll be bringing her wealth of experience to bear on the topic, the psychology of education. Welcome, over to you, Ma.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. Good morning, everyone, or
Yes,
good day from wherever you're watching. It's a great privilege to be here. It's an honor. And thank you all for joining. I also like to thank my brother, Peace Bamidele, from the name, of course, you already guessed, and his beautiful wife, Foyinsola Bamidele, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. I hope that we can get 1 or 2 things from the presentation today. And I've learned so much. If you see all over, I've just been writing so many things from all the presentations. I've really learned so much because for me, it's also informative to listen to the actual teachers on the ground. And I learned so much from the panel session as well, because then I could see, okay, real life examples of what is going on right now. So I'm going to just start by sharing my screen. Do I have the permission to do that? Yes, I do. And let's see. From the start, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction, Foyinsola. And Peace, thank you again for convening this. It's something also dear to my heart, because right now I'm writing on a paper. I'm writing my PhD paper, my first paper actually, on social emotional of children with autism. So it's very interesting for me to see other perspective for neurotypical kids. So today I'll be speaking about the psychology of education. As Foyinsola said, I have a background in psychology, and that's for me very interesting as well, because education has always been my passion. And someone says, oh, so why didn't you study education? I say, I don't know. I think Nigeria happened. But now I find a way to go back to education, and I'm very interested in all the things happening now. And also with the kids I work with autism, I also work with them in schools. So I'm also constantly working with teachers and working with the parents to see how to improve their lives. So this morning, I'm going to be speaking on the psychology of education. I'm going to try to make it less information, so we can have one or two things as a take home. Yeah, I'm going to start with this quote by B.F. Skinner. It says, education is what survives when what has been learned has been forgotten. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to read it out loud to yourself. It's a good thing we are muted. Just read it out loud to yourself and try to explain it however it makes meaning to you. It's fine. Okay, I think that's very deep, and I hope it makes meaning to you. However it makes meaning to you, that's your take home for today. Then I'm going to go straight into what I have prepared. First, we're going to start with psychology. What's the definition of psychology? And there's been a lot of definitions in the past of what psychology is. It has been defined as the science of the soul. It has been defined as the science of the mind, as the science of consciousness. But in the 20th century, the behavior scientists like B.F. Skinner and J.B. Watson, for those interested in the names, they defined psychology as a science of behavior and experiences. And that's, if there's one thing I want you to go home with today, is behavior. So what did she talk about? The second speaker just say, oh, she talked about behavior. Because I'm going to be talking about behavior for the next 15 minutes. And I hope you come along with me. So like I said, psychology was defined in the 20th century as a science of behavior and experiences. There are so many goals of psychology, but the most important goal that stuck with me all over the years, I think it was in Psychology 101 or something like that in the University of Lagos, was one goal of psychology is to improve the quality of human life. And that has always stuck with me. So in whatever field, whatever place I find myself, when I have a new client, when I'm working with a child, I always ask myself the first question, how do I improve the quality of this life? And that for me has been very central to my work and central to my professional life in general, that I need to improve the quality of this life. And that's why I'm a psychologist, to improve the quality of this life. And I think it's also applicable to teachers. We should ask ourselves the question, how am I going to improve the quality of this child, of this children, of the students under my care? And that's, I think, will help us a long way to develop the skills necessary for doing that. And so we go to educational psychology. Educational psychology also has a lot of definitions, but one of the key things I took out from there, it's a branch of psychology, because we have other branches. There's organizational psychology, there's clinical psychology, there's sports psychology, but educational psychology is a branch of psychology that studies the behavior of the teacher and the behavior of the learner in relation to education. And what does this mean? It means that it helps the teacher to teach effectively. It helps the learner to learn effectively with the minimum effort possible. And it's interesting because it has a lot of, the scope is huge. So it's not just, oh yeah, what's education? What is education? That's really huge, but we have a huge scope. And one of the scope of educational psychology is the human behavior. And that's, in educational context, we have different behaviors of the learner, different behavior of the teacher, and how the interrelationship of this relations, how does it affect learning? We also have the learner, like I said, we have the learning experiences. All these are the scope of educational psychology. We also have the learning situations. We have the learning process. We have individual differences. All these are the scope of educational psychology. But today I'm just going to like I said, I'm just going to keep it really short, because I know from virtual conferences, it's very difficult to follow, and then to remember all these things is much a bigger task. And that's why I'm going to just keep it really short. And like I said, just keep remembering the word behavior. I'm a behavior therapist, so behavior is central to everything I do. So I'm going to be talking about behavior the whole of today. So educational side, what if they say, what's the psychology in education? Behavior. That's just, I'm not saying that's all about it. I'm just saying that's one key aspect which I'll be talking about in this conference. In subsequent conferences, if I am invited again, I will talk about other aspects. But in this conference, I just like to talk about the behavior. So of the teacher, the behavior of the learner. But as teachers, we want to look at how we want to help our students' behavior regards to their education, how we want to achieve, how we want our students to learn better, to behave better, to make learning conducive, and to make them learn effectively with the minimum effort. We can hear from the mental experts. The trauma, you are also a teacher coming with your own baggage, you're coming with a lot of things. So it's very important to use the minimum effort possible, else you'll be giving so much of yourself. And I'm a mom of 2 boys, and every day I tell my friends and my husband, I feel less and less of myself in this house, like physically less, because of all the work and all the laundry. So as a teacher, if you have all the stress as well, and then maybe you are like me, or you have more kids, or you have little kids, I have a baby, then you going to work is more like a chore. So then you have that additional pressure. So what educational psychology aims to do is to help you to use the minimum effort possible to achieve excellence in your students. And that is what I'm going to be talking about this quickly. Why is it relevant, you may ask? Yeah, why do I need psychology? I'm just a teacher. I've gone through all the training necessary. I just want to teach in my class. Yeah, that's important, but we can hear from all the things the previous in the keynote address that was really very insightful for me. Thank you so much, Dr. Adeoshun. It was really, really awesome presentation. You can see a lot of things that the students are grappling with, especially in Nigeria. You know, it breaks my heart because I live now in the Netherlands and I see a different approach to things. I see a lot of innovative things and I'm like, oh my goodness, how do children I grew up in Nigeria, by the way. I'm just here for 8 years. So I have also some insight into the educational system in Nigeria, and it breaks my heart to be able to compare. And I schooled in Nigeria as well. I did one of my master's degree in Nigeria, so I'm also aware of that environment. And I have a master's degree here in the Netherlands, and now I'm also doing a PhD. So I'm in both educational system, and it's sad because I can compare, and it breaks my heart to see how teachers are really doing well in Nigeria despite the shortcomings. And that's why we need more tools. And I'm very glad for this platform because it helps teachers to actually understand and do less work, not less work in quotes, but with the less minimum effort possible to achieve excellence in students. And I think it will go a long way. And that's a bit of digression. And let me now stay on track. So I say, what's the relevance of educational psychology for teachers, you may ask? There are lots of relevances, but I just picked out 2. And like I said, my keyword today is behavior. So the first thing is, for a teacher, educational psychology helps you to understand the behavior of your students. So you need to understand, oh, this is their behavior. This is what they are doing these things. You need to understand why they are doing what they are doing first, you know. Miss Awodeji's, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it correctly, said a lot of things about disruptive behaviors in class. She said, for example, they have no boundaries, they blot out during a session, during a lesson, they talk back at teachers. So as a teacher, you need to understand, why is this child doing this? Why? And not only why, you need to understand how to help the students modify their behavior. So that's why educational psychology is very relevant. And that's the core of this conference. And that's the core of educational psychology as regards behavior. She also mentioned something about how she connects with the student, but then you might be wondering, okay, how connection, how? And that brings me to the second part of my presentation. I'm going to give you a simple tool. It's just a first step tool in understanding the behavior of your students and helping your students to modify their behavior. I hope it's meaningful and useful, but feel free to ask questions, maybe in a later session, or I would be able to elaborate more. But for the purpose of this conference, I just have a simple tool right now to share on how to help a teacher understand the behavior and modify the behavior of a student. Are we on track? Please let's put some life in the comments. I'm sorry, I need to take a drink. Sorry for that. I was just recovering from a cold, so
it's needed. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adeosun. Thank you so much. Okay, so we go on. Like I said, I'm just going to give you a simple tool, and that's called the ABC approach to behavior. ABC is easy, everybody remembers that, but that's also the name of the approach actually. And it's the first step towards understanding the behavior of your students. Now, what is the ABC approach? It's written on my slide. A is antecedents, B is behavior, and C is consequences. We use this often in my line of work. We have the ABC data. We take ABC data all the time. But what is it and how useful is it for the teachers? I'm going to quickly explain the ABC, and then I will give you a practical example, and I hope that helps. I see my name as Mark. That's my husband's name appearing on the screen. Sorry, I'm using his computer. That's why it's Mark. Okay, antecedents. Those are the things that happen before a behavior. And I wrote out something from Dr. Adeosun. I'm sorry if I pronounce these names wrongly. Adeosun. The presentation. She says there are lots of things that can prevent a student to learn effectively, and that's really deep because those are antecedents. For example, a student could be tired. Maybe they didn't sleep properly. Maybe there was no light, I can imagine. Or maybe they had to work long hours, or they were in traffic all day, all morning to get to school. Antecedents are things like hunger and the setting and maybe a difficult task or the newness of a task. Anything that has the ability or the likelihood to increase or decrease a behavior are called antecedents. So it could be a task given, it could be a difficult task, a new task. It could be like a sickness, for example, the child is sick. It could be a teacher is new. It could be like Miss Awodiji said, like after COVID. So it could be like a long session at home and then the child comes to school. Those are antecedents, all these things, everything that happens before the behavior. So as a teacher, in order to understand the behavior of your students, the first thing you want to know is this behavior. I'm going to get to the behavior now, but what are the things that happen before this behavior? Is it my tone of voice, like Mrs. Awodeji? I'm sorry I keep referring to her because she's a class teacher, and for me it was very informative, all the points she gave. She talked about how the students will say, oh, you're shouting. That's an antecedent to whatever behavior they do later. So everything as a teacher, your first task in using this ABC tool to behavior, if you want to understand the behavior of your students, is to write. You can write it down. Like I said, we have an ABC data. I'm a behavior therapist, so we take objective data. That's for us. It's important that we write all the time. I don't like it to be side note, but that's very important because it helps to be objective and not just, oh yeah, I feel. We don't use those words. It has to be very objective. So as a teacher, you have to write down what happened before this behavior. Is it my tone of voice? Is the student tired? Is it sick? Is the task difficult? Is it is it the end of like coming back from school after a difficult period at home? You want to know all those things, and that's the antecedents. So A, B, C of behavior. A is antecedents, things that happen before any behavior. Okay, we go to the B. The B is the behavior of interest. And once again, I go back to the list of Miss Sheung. Let me just leave it like that so I don't mutilate your name. Ms. Sheung said, like I read earlier, no boundaries, blotting out during a session, talking back, kicking a chair, all these are behaviors. There are also positive behaviors, but we don't want to do anything about positive behaviors because that's what we want. What we want is for the negative behaviors, we want to decrease them as much as possible, and we want to increase positive behaviors. So that's the goal of understanding the student's behavior. We want to, in as much as possible in the modification, we want to try as much as possible to increase positive behaviors and decrease negative behaviors. Yeah, not bringing it to zero because that's like high hopes, but try as much as possible to decrease it in order to make learning comfortable. And like B.F. Skinner said in our quote, in order to have things survive after everything you've learned. I cannot remember all the X plus Y that they taught me, but I can remember some skills that are useful. The X plus Y helps me now in my abstract thinking. My husband can come home and say, oh, you see, I was coming, there was this, and then I can think about it. Why not being there? That's what X plus Y did. That's what X plus Y helps to do. So if you meet an illiterate person and you say, oh, you see, I was this, and the person is like, what are you talking about? They don't have the ability to think abstractly, but a literate mind has that ability because of what has been taught in class. X plus Y is 2, and what is X? Now I don't remember all those rules, but then I can think abstractly. So what am I trying to say is that it's important, not just what you are teaching the students, and I'm glad that's the focus of this, as Peace said in the opening speech. It's also not just education and what you teach in class and your mathematics and English, which I know is very core in Nigerian curriculum, but also after everything you've taught, what survives. That's education, according to B.F. Skinner. And so we go to the behavior. You want to look at what happened exactly. What happened? What's the behavior? So not in an abstract form like, oh, he's just crying, or no, you have to be concrete. What's the behavior? And again, the list is very informative. You have to be specific about it. You have to be objective. The child talked back at me, or the child kicked a chair, or the child blotted out doing a lesson, or the child was on his cell phone. Objective behavior, you have to be able to say it objectively like that in your ABC plan. What did the student do? No, oh, he just started to say some mean words. No, what is mean words? You have to be objective about that. Oh, the child just started to say, I am a stupid teacher. Or the child started to, so you have to be very objective. Then you have to also note in the behavior, how often does this happen? Some behaviors just happen once, and maybe they're not so disruptive. Maybe the child is feeling so, because we all have our moments. A child can just be saying, what a stupid teacher, and that never happened again the whole of the term. That's okay, it's not so disruptive. But if a child says you're a mean teacher or a wicked teacher like 10, 15 times a day, of course you agree with me that that's very disruptive to the whole system, to the environment. So you have to also know how often does this behavior happen. So that's what you want to know. So we have the A, the antecedents, everything that happened before the behavior, hunger, tiredness, tone of voice, everything you want to note it down. And B, the behavior, what happened, what did the student do, what did the student say, how often does this happen? You want to note it down. How intense was it? How frequent? Is it crying out or just blotting out, for example, can just be, hello, just say something. And some can really be very loud and say, what is this? And just scream or shout. So you also want to see how intense this happens, the frequency of it, all these things we've talked about. For time, let me see, okay, then I run quickly. And then we want to see the consequence. That C is for consequence. So these are the things that happen immediately after the student's behavior. So it may be somebody reacted to like when a student blots out, for example. One of the examples Ms. Sheung gave is that the class started to laugh. So you want to say, oh, did the class laugh? It may be also that you gave attention. Then you say, oh, Ali, stop that. You gave attention. Or it could be an object. Maybe when the child did something, then he's able to gain access to something. It could also be escape from an activity like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Then let me run out of the class, or let me kick a chair or something. Then there will be like a disruptions and something will happen. Or it could also be sensory. This is another module entirely. What I'm actually telling you now, that's the function of behavior. That's another module entirely. I will not go into it in this conference, but that's for another time. So this ABC approach is very helpful in classroom situations. It helps teachers to understand what decreasing the likelihood of the behavior happening again. So sometimes we as teachers, we do something, but we don't know that it strengthens the behavior. We can respond in such a way that the child is gaining attention from it. And because the child is gaining attention, I would say, stop that, comfort, stop that, Fumilayo, stop that. And then the child likes that you always call his or her name. Say, oh yeah. So every day the child kicks a chair and Fumilayo, stop that. Yeah, tomorrow kicks a chair. Fumilayo, stop that. The child is just enjoying the attention. And we're saying, or you even say, go and kneel down there. And the child is feeling, oh yeah, I'm very important. They called my name now. You don't know. So there are a lot of things that are strengthening a behavior, helping it to happen again. So we want this ABC approach is useful because it helps us to know whether a particular response or a particular object or a particular thing or whatever other students are doing is actually increasing or decreasing the likelihood of that behavior from happening. And all these things I just said are just theoretical. I'm going to give now an example and then I am done. This is a huge write-up. I don't expect you to read everything. Let me read it quickly. A teacher gives an instruction to the class, says, return to your seats, everyone, after a break. Some students refuse to comply with this instruction. And each time they are either going out of the class without permission or caught using or playing on their cell phone or blotting out words or engaging in a fight with other students. And these behaviors are disrupting to the entire class and hinders overall learning. So that's the example. And let's now take an ABC data together with this. I'm going to be anchoring it, don't worry. And then we'll see how a teacher can really deal with these things happening in the class. Maybe you have another list. Maybe your students are younger or older, but you can modify the ABC approach as needed. And you can always reach out to me for help. So there are different strategies you can use. Like I said, before we move to the strategies, let's put out this ABC approach. Let's use the ABC approach. What's the antecedent in this example? The teacher gives an instruction. That happened before the behavior. The teacher said something. Everybody, time is up. The break period is over. Go to your seats. Or the bell goes off. Everybody go back to your seats. That's an antecedent. An antecedent could also be the break time is over. That antecedent does not have to be something said or done. It can also be the setting. So you know the free time, everybody is free running about, but then that is finished. They're coming to a structured time. So that's an antecedent. So what
Apologies for the break. We're waiting for Ms. Womas. maybe her internet connection is unstable. Let's just give her a minute, please. Okay, so right after this session, we'll be taking pictures. Please, please, everybody, let's try to put on our cameras, so that we can take pictures and for, publicity and everything. But just please, we would appreciate it if we could turn on our camera. I think Ms. Walpomas is out. Okay, okay, since she's out, okay, let's just put on our cameras now for the photography session. It will only take a minute. We'll appreciate it if everyone can turn on their cameras. Good to see your beautiful. Okay. While we're waiting for Ms. Walbom.
Hello.
Oh, okay, she's back. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you now, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I just saw my screen was frozen and I couldn't hear anything anymore. Is it good? Is it better now?
It's better now. It's better now. It's better now.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I would start sharing again.
Okay, we can see your screen now, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm almost done. Let's.
Okay. We have only a few minutes left, so we can.
Yeah, I am done now. So we are in the examples now. Yeah, I have just the last slide. And like I said, we have the consequence from that example is that maybe the child is going to the toilet to going out of the class to use the toilet or play a game on the cell phone. And as a teacher, what are the strategies you can use? From here, it says you can use a classroom schedule, set clear rules, match interests and abilities, use positive models. You can teach social skills. You can teach social and emotional learning. All these are huge things we can do. For example, if the child is using that as an escape, then you can match their interest. Maybe after the break time, you can just introduce a fun time. Though it's structured, but it's just fun. So the child knows, oh, okay, I don't need to escape from what is coming. If it's access, then you can say, oh yeah, okay, everybody now, you can have 5 minutes on your mobile phone or something. Then you know that you give that and you are controlling that situation. And if it's like students are engaging in a fight, you can teach them social skills, or you can try to teach them how to regulate their emotions, which, like I said, is the core of this conference. So I'm going to stop here now because of time. Remember, the ABC approach to behavior helps the teacher to understand behavior and to modify the behavior of his learner. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was an explosive session. It was very interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, so because of our time, let's just rush through things. Please, everybody, can we turn on our cameras? We'll take the photograph in just a minute or two, and we move on to the next session, which is the final panelist session. Okay, amazing. All cameras turned on. We're still waiting, we're waiting. Yes. We're still waiting for a few people to turn on their cameras. Please turn on your camera. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody looking good. Thank you all for joining in. It's time to move on to the next session. Okay, so I've taken so many pictures. Yes, nice pictures. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all for that. Thank you very much. So we'll be moving into the next session now, the next panel session. And to lead us into the next panel session is Mr. Peace Bamidele. Over to you, sir.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's almost 12 noon. Quite an amazing session we've had the past 2 hours. Thank you. I can see comments rolling in. Amazing session. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Super amazing session. Very amazing. I've learned quite a lot. Thank you so much. The session was loaded. Great session. Thank you. Nice presentation. Thank you so much, Mrs. Fumi Walbomas, my amiable sister, a scholar that I take after in many regards, many respects. Okay. Thank you all for tuning in so far and staying. Okay. We have just one final session, and I want to crave your indulgence to be patient with us. We have some very seasoned minds in the house. Okay. Let me also show my face so that you can all see where we are. Okay. I crave your indulgence. We're going to go just a bit beyond 12. We know we said it's 10 to 12, but we're going to go just a bit beyond 12 for this final session, and then we are done. Okay. So once again, thank you all for tuning in and for joining us today. Okay. So my name is Peace Bamidele, and I'm going to be anchoring this last final session. Okay. And it's such an honor to be doing this. I'm so excited. I'm happy about the quality of insights we have received today from the very brilliant minds that we've gathered, okay? Starting from my respected professor, Dr. Adeosun, amazing session when I was going through the slides. And just for your information, our slides are going to be available on our website, okay? Those amazing insights will be available on our website. We'll say more about that in the course of the meeting. And then of course, the panel session, amazing session, Mr. Emmanuel, Ms. Shewawu DJ, and then of course, Mr. Feifani, amazing insights from these very brilliant minds that we've gathered today. And then the last session, Mrs. Fumi Walbomas, amazing session. Lots of insights. I'm sure you can begin to take notes. I'm sure your notes are full. Okay, it's about to get filled up more. I crave us to also mute ourselves. Okay, please mute yourself so that there are no distractions anywhere. Okay, so very quickly, I'm just going to be going into the next panel session. It is my honor and privilege to welcome these three amazing minds into this very fabulous session. Okay, I've known all three of them. I've known them for a long time now, and I've worked with them in different capacities, different industries, different environment, different conferences. Okay, so I know the quality of minds that we have in the room. Okay, first off, we have Mr. Biodun Kolawole. Mr. Biodun Kolawole is a seasoned educator with over 2 decades in the education industry. Okay, he's a passionate and selfless man, I can tell you. He's full of wisdom, practical wisdom, and he's very graceful in his delivery. Okay, he serves as the lead consultant of MBS Consulting, and we are thrilled to have him speak at this year's National SEL Conference. Okay, and the topic is going to be focusing on is redefining the role of the educator post-COVID-19. Mr. Biodun Kolawole is a very dear friend of mine, somebody I regard as my mentor, somebody who is very sound. Any advice he gives you, you better take it. Okay, we're in for a ride. And also, together with him, we also have Miss Kemi Ogunsoya. Miss Kemi Ogunsoya is dubbed the quintessential teacher. Is an exceptional educator who uses practical methods and strategies to engage students in a classroom, which has caught the attention of key players in the education sector. Okay, I'm sure some of us in the room may know. I definitely will see her on her posts. She's trending all over social media. She's a literacy educator at Sunnydale School, Lagos. Kemi has a master's degree in educational planning and administration and is a frequent speaker at top educational conferences and teacher training seminars. Okay, we are privileged to have her with us at this year's edition of the SEL conference to speak on the topic skills beyond the classroom for teachers and students. Okay, that's the second panel speaker. Then lastly, a very dear friend of mine and a brother, Mr. Oluwaseyi Anifowose. Okay, he's an exceptionally selfless educator who goes the extra mile to build legacies and record timeless impact in the educational sector. Okay, he's the convener of one of the most impactful educational seminars in Nigeria that sees the attendance of some high-profile guest speakers and continues to record impact in shaping policy and practice in the sector. Okay, he's the school principal of King's Care Universal School, Abuja, and we're thrilled to have him join us for this session. He also serves on the board of MarkWillows Foundation. He's a dear friend and brother, always ready to serve, always ready to support the cause. And so we're excited to have these amazing speakers. I can tell you what you have in the room is a combination of about 70 years of experience, almost 70 years of experience, okay, we have in the room today. And I can assure you, you are in for an exciting ride, okay? So can we just hear from the speakers very quickly? Mr. Biodo, you want to say a word just to welcome you to the room? You are muted, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's been an engaging 2 hours. Thank you, Mrs. Fumi. Thank you for that insightful session. Dr. Diosho, that was rich. Mr. ODG, that was very, very deep. Mr. Emmanuel, thank you. Our mental health practitioner, thank you. And Mr. Peace, thank you for putting this together. I can see the journey is getting more engaging, and we'll get this message out that we all need to be SEL. We need to understand social emotional learning and the impact it will have on our future. Thank you. And your dear wife, I've been part of this in 2 hours. Peaceful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Let's hear from Ms. Kemi Ogusoya. Ms. Kemi, are you in the room? Amazing. We can hear you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. Yeah, good morning everyone. It's been a very insightful session. I mean, I've been here for maybe 1 hour or more, and then every session I've learned something very vital. So thank you to you, I mean, Mr. Peace Bamidele, for putting this up. And then I'm sure every educator here has gained a lot, things that we can implement in our classrooms, even as we prepare towards a new session. So.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, ma'am. Let's hear from Mr. Oluwaseyi Anifowose. Just a quick warm welcome. Mr. Sheyi, are you there? Mr. Sheyi, are you there? Are you with us? If you are speaking, you are muted, just to be sure he's with us in the room. Okay, I guess he's still trying to sort out the internet. I think we'll just go right into the questions because of time. Something? Okay, let's just go right ahead. Okay, so I'll just kick off with Mr. Abiodun Kolawole. Of course, I will call him one of the fathers in the educational sector is Mr. Abiodun, and I'm so honored to be connected to him. We spoke together at the Lagos Teachers Conference time and again, okay? Now, Mr. Abiodun, first question to you. So much has happened in the educational sector that has shaped the way teachers are perceived, okay, in terms of their role, okay? Teachers are known to do different things in the classroom. And so the role of teachers have evolved from 17, 18 to 18 to 19, and then 2000. Now the COVID pandemic has struck, so many things have changed. So what would you say, okay, briefly discuss this evolution that has led to what we now regard as the present day role of the teacher amidst the different digital revolution, okay? We have so many things coming at us now, the Internet of Things, we have artificial intelligence. What is the current day role of the teacher? Just take us on a short journey through the evolution of the role of the teacher from beginning till now, and what should teachers know about what their role is in the classroom as opposed to what we've always known it to be. Okay, over to you now, ma'am. Sir. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. P. Bamidele, for that question. I really appreciate it. So while thinking deep about this question, I remember the words of my mentor, that's Dr. Christopher Kolade, who started his career, interestingly, as an educational officer. And, the respect, the honor that the society accord anybody within the frame of knowledge and sharing, especially with the next generation, was huge. And she said, he reminds me of, oh, this was who a teacher was. I mean, it was prestigious to teach in the community. You walk across, everybody greeting you, bringing their farm produce, bringing everything, and say, oh, that's my teacher, like that. Coupled with what we have had in the past few decades, where people came into teaching not because they wanted to, but because of survival and economic reason. Then we had this huge season where a lot of people, a lot of us in the knowledge space started doing something about teaching and teachers and equipping teachers thanks to educational conferences, the largest one for teachers in Africa. That piece spearheaded under the EduAid, like that. So there was a lot of knowledge. But we came across COVID again, and that literally just changed a lot of things. And when I say change, it's not just for education. Politics are changed across the world. You see, banking also witnessed the change. Business also witnessed the changes. We're talking about Internet of Things. We have the richest men in the world active in the technological space. That's Jeff Bezos, and you have Elon Musk, and you have Bill Gates. You have the Facebook. So you're asking, oh, it's a new world that we are in, and we cannot keep living in denial as educators. I'd warned and rang alarm of this last 5 years that the world is going to shift, and it's now really before our very eyes. My encouragement as we walk through this evolution is you can't be static as a teacher. In fact, what makes us great teachers is that we understand the principles of evolution, the dynamics of change, and we are not going to resist it. In fact, we'll be ahead of those changes, knowing that, for instance, the world has shifted. I can't stay in yesterday. I've got to know more than what I knew yesterday. I've got to deepen my emotional knowledge about myself, and how I pass the message of teaching, and the message I have to pass across to the next generation. Knowledge is boundless, knowledge is endless. We must be active on that place. But let me say this: the personal changes is where I know that teachers are going through a lot. And like Mr. Emmanuel painted pictures of what most teachers went through emotionally and financially, and how a lot of them had to look for other things to do. I'm aware that we had a lot of debt of quality teachers in the sector that was pronounced by COVID, because I say teachers found alternatives to their lives and told themselves, I cannot continue like this. So in the midst of this crisis, what position do I think teachers have to do? Now, this conference is about social emotional learning. I need every teacher to invest in just that: the knowledge of yourself, the knowledge of other people, how to activate relationship, improve your decision making. The reality is that these things, like Dr. Joshua shared, they are in the innate curriculum, and there is no way you can give what you do not have. If you don't have it, guess what the name is? You do not have it. So it's time for deeper research beyond what you teach in terms of curriculum and how you pass your literacy and math lesson across. It's time to even deepen your sense of achievement. It's time to align how you run your relationships. And like I've warned in every sector, every forum. All your teachers cannot be friends. You need to know something about something else apart from education. I'm learning. People have asked me, what are you doing next? I said, you see, education can be a trap. You can be locked in our world, but you need to know what happened in science. You need to know what happens in logistics around you. You need to know what happens in agriculture. You need to know. That's one thing COVID offered all of us. The walls are crumbled. What does that do for us? When you come to the classroom, you will be enriched in your description. You will have real life scenarios. One of the frustrations we had before COVID was that we were not teaching with the reality concept in mind. We were not connecting to environment. Maybe the knowledge of these walls crumbling before us in our world can offer us the opportunity to teach in context, to teach in context of the reality of the society people exist, and not to disconnect education from the realities. I think these are what our challenges are, and we have to figure out how we are going to be players actively in just in that. Thank you very much, Mr. Peace.
Wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you very much for those fantastic insights. And I think you've set the tone for the next question, because now there's a huge demand on teachers to not just focus on what they do in the classroom. There's a huge demand on teachers to actually develop themselves, to go beyond what they are taught in the regular classroom. I mean, that's why we're actually even partnering with universities, okay? The entire gamut of teacher training has to be reconsidered. What are teachers learning? And that brings me to a question to Ms. Kemi Ogunsonya, who is very invested in teaching teachers how to develop skills. So, Ms. Kemi, we live in a skill-dominated world where your certificate in school is not enough to make you successful, okay? What skills are essential? First, for the teacher, and then for the students to learn and consciously begin to develop in order to optimize their potential. So we're talking about skills for teachers and students now, especially now that Mr. Biodun has given that background. Over to you now, Ms. Kelly.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so skills for teachers, skills for students. Now, I'm going to try to emphasize a lot on the skills for teachers, because I believe that when teachers have like a perfect understanding of the skills that are needed, and then they're able to model it for themselves, it becomes easy to impart those same skills into the children. Now, so looking at the 21st century skills, they can be broadly categorized into three: learning skills, literacy skills, and life skills. Life skills are more of the social and emotional skills. Learning skills like critical thinking, like communication, like collaboration. Okay, literacy skills like information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy. And then the life skills, the social emotional skills: empathy, flexibility, leadership, innovation, productivity. Now, all of those skills are important for the teacher and then for the students. But I'll start with leadership as a core skill for the 21st century teacher. Now, when a teacher stands in front of your students, you're more than just a math teacher or an English teacher or a science teacher. Leadership is a skill. I mean, a teacher's authority goes beyond just exerting discipline. A child has done something wrong, and then you have the authority to say, oh, do this, do that. There's more to that. A leader is someone that facilitates change. A leader is someone that sets the pace. A leader is someone that models things for the students. Now, not just in terms of your words alone, but in terms of action, your modeling behavior. It's a skill every teacher must cultivate. So as a teacher leader, okay, you must be able to create a vision, build a vision, for first of all for yourself, and then for your students, and then you're making strategic steps to achieve that vision. So at the beginning of every session, for example, for my students, there's something I want us to achieve. I mean, after I've been able to look at the last session, looked at the results, looked at how the children have been able to perform. For every new session, there's something else I want to achieve. And then when the students coming newly into the class, I'm able to bring them on board. We're able to talk together on steps we can use in achieving that vision for the classroom. So it goes beyond me. But first of all, I have had clarity on the vision, and then I can extend it to my students. So leadership is a very important skill for the teacher, being able to build a relationship with your students, build that strong relationship, that positive kind of relationship that improves student outcome in learning, being able to foster collaboration. I mean, as a teacher, being able to work with your own colleagues too in achieving different goals. So leadership is, first of all, the skill I'm going to stress on. And then after that comes critical thinking, problem solving. As a teacher, you can't have too much of this. I mean, just like Mrs. Boomers was saying, yeah, I hope I got the name correct. When it comes to analyzing students' behavior, she mentioned ABC. There was antecedents, there was behavior. When it comes to being able to analyze children's behavior, being able to analyze their interests, their intelligence patterns, a teacher must have that ability, to come up with, to be able to analyze and evaluate your students correctly. So every time I have children in my classroom, I understand the principle of multiple intelligences. And then I try to observe every child in my class, at the beginning of every session correctly. I understand what their intelligences are. And then I make sure that learning for them goes in the line of their intelligences. So critical thinking, being able to, evaluate what the students have, what they know, what they need to know, and then how you can use the possible resources you have at that particular time to bridge that gap of learning for them. Then beyond critical thinking is communication. Communication is very critical for teachers, being able to know the medium of communication to your students, whether it's verbal, it's non-verbal, it's written, it's oral, whatever it is, being sure that your students are able to understand you. It's not enough to know it as the teacher. If you're not able to pass it across to the students in a way that they understand it for themselves, then that means learning has not taken place already. So knowing the right medium of communication for your students, and then, following through on that. Now, as a teacher, when I talk about communication, there's something called the I statement. So the I statement, the you statement. The you statement is something like a child has done something wrong in the classroom. And I tell the child, oh, you're a very disruptive child, you're a very stubborn child, you're very naughty, you do this, you do that. Now there's the I statement I could use, okay, telling the child something like, okay, I do not appreciate it when children are disruptive in my classroom. I believe that this will maybe distract their focus or something. Now I'm using I'm not using the you statement. I'm not I'm focusing on the problem, on the behavior, not on the child's personality, not on the child's self-esteem. So it's something that is important for teachers, being able to use that I statement when you're communicating with students. And then in communicating comes the use of technology. We can't overrule that. So in using whatever technological tool or platform it is you're using for your students, make sure it's something that is appropriate for them, age appropriate, content appropriate. Yeah, so that's it for communication. And then when it comes to creativity, creativity is a vital skill. I mean, for every time in the classroom, I have to improvise on learning resources, improvise on different things. So creativity, being able to come up with creative ways to engage the learners, creative ways that appeals to the students' forms of intelligences. So there are some times that in my lesson plan, I've put up a particular assignment that I'm going to use. But then that lesson comes up, and I know that there's a more interesting way, or there's a more creative way to pass the message across to the students. I get to implement that. Creativity also comes from a place of research as a teacher. So how strong are your researching skills as a teacher? How much are you willing to delve into the roots of the content you want to teach? How much do you actually know? Or, sometimes as teachers, it's possible for you to be too much into your comfort zone that you don't stretch yourself. So you've been a primary 4 teacher for the past 5 years. You've taught the same topic over and over again. You've taught nouns, you've taught it over and over again. So you know everything about it. So every year you're just using the same thing. Now that doesn't work, because you're supposed to update your knowledge, update your skills. I mean, be creative about what you do. Be creative about how you teach, and then how you pass your message across to learners. And then I think I must have mentioned this earlier, but yes, media, technology literacy is key. It's something that just gets, that adds more spice, if I may say, to the learning process. So these are skills that are important for the teachers. And then for the students, I mean, these same skills that I've mentioned that will work for the teachers and then also work for the students. Collaboration, teaching students the importance of it. In many ways, the Nigerian society, probably gives many people that impression of, oh, let me just do my thing, do it alone, achieve what I want to achieve for myself and all that. But this is the age where we need to stress on it for students in many ways. I mean, in the classroom, there are many times the children will tell me, oh, I don't want to be in this group, I don't want to be in that group, I want to sit down here, I don't want to sit with this person, I don't want to do this. Yes. But then it lies on me as the teacher to know that these students must learn to work together regardless of their bias or whatever it is. So collaboration, critical thinking, leadership, making the students know. So there's something I do in my classroom. I know for most schools, there's usually the class captain and assistant and all that. But for me, I give every child in my class that opportunity to lead. So there's a particular plan I have in place where probably I have 15, 20 children in the classroom. I'm able to split them into all the days of the week. So for example, it's called, I call it my class management team. So maybe on Monday, I have 3 people in charge of the classroom. They have their particular responsibilities. Tuesday, Wednesday, everyone gets a turn. Everyone gets a trial, trial at that. And then at the end of the week, we then get to discuss, we get to talk about, how each group has done, which group did the best work and all of that. Just making sure that every child is involved, not just choosing the best students in the class as a class captain, while all the others are just left aside and don't have that opportunity. So I think these are like the vital skills in the classroom.
Wow, that was so rich. I'm sure you agree with me in the chat room that was so rich. Kemi has started hitting right on the nail of what SEL is about. Social and emotional learning is about learning about skills, not just what you're teaching, academic learning. And the students also have to be involved. Spoke about leadership, spoke about communication, spoke about critical thinking. And I'm very happy about the last example you shared about involving the children, involving the students in the process. Okay, you appoint them. From there, they begin to develop soft skills. They begin to develop leadership skills. Okay, that's a very profound one you shared. I'm sure we're taking notes. One of the things that teachers often complain about also is the fact that the management of the school is not supportive. Because they don't see the need. Okay, maybe the principal of the school head, a teacher is trying to be creative in the classroom, okay, and they are not, the school management, look, just get results for us, let the students pass. That's what we're after, okay? So one of the concerns is that school managers, school owners, they don't see the need for these things. They just want results so that they can please parents, okay? Which is why we've brought a principal of the school in Abuja, okay? Mr. Oluwase Yanifowoshe, if you can kindly unmute, is a principal in a reputable school in Abuja. And so one of the first questions we'll throw at you, sir, is that, do you think social and emotional learning is good? Let's just debunk that first. So how can social and emotional learning help solve some of the challenges in our school environment? If you think it's good, if you think it's necessary, in your own context, what have you found relevant in your own context? Over to you, sir.
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Very loud and clear. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay, so I'm trying to. I think my video was showing before now. So sorry, I've been in and out of this session. So sorry for all of that, but thank you for this opportunity and thank you for what you're doing. Okay, so I believe all of the speakers have really done justice to this topic. So I'm glad, Mr. Bamidele. I don't know if you still remember the internet theory by Noam Chomsky. Okay, and according to the theory, what Chomsky was proposing is that every child has the capacity to acquire any language. You know, it talks about language acquisition device, which gives every child the opportunity to acquire any language. And of course, there is this another story. I don't know if you're also familiar with it. There's a story, there's a boy named Victor. Victor was a boy that was found in the forest. Victor was, I think, about 13 years old at the time. He was found in the forest and was brought to the society. But by the time he was found, they tried to teach him how to speak. But of course, it was almost impossible because he had passed the age where he could speak. So my point is, every child has the capacity to learn. Every child has the capacity to acquire whatever you want them to acquire. But then what is most important is the learning environment. If the environment is not enabling enough, they won't be able to learn anything. And that's the role of the teachers. You see, the environment of education should be in itself life. The environment of education should be life in itself, where students can experience living and not preparing for it. And that's a great misconception that we have as teachers. We think we're preparing scholars, students for living, but we tend to forget that our classroom is supposed to be life in itself. We have the responsibilities as teachers to make our learning environment live in itself. Understand that all the scholars, all the students in our classes are full of emotions. So it is our responsibilities to make sure that students experience living. And of course, back to your question, you see, many times, because I start from the classroom, many times we've had teachers complain that the school is not providing the enabling environment. Of course, yes, the school has its role to provide an enabling environment. But as a teacher, you also have the responsibility to provide an enabling environment. As a school principal, one of the things that we do to ensure SEL is practiced is to constantly reorientate the teachers. Professor Ajibefo said something very profound. He said, the teacher is the most important factor in the translation of educational ideologies, philosophies, policies, programs into actions and realities. In other words, without the teachers, it's almost impossible to have policies translated into realities. without the teachers. In fact, there's this guy that I love his quote very well, Girox. He said that teachers are transformative intellectuals who promote an environment that enables participants to reflect on their day-to-day lives. So it is the job of the teacher to provide that enabling environment. We are transformative intellectuals, and we promote that environment that will ensure that children excel. That we will provide an environment that children be themselves in the classrooms. We have an environment that students are able to express themselves with everything that they have. And so, number one thing that is very key, which I said, is that we ensure that we constantly provide orientation for teachers. We constantly talk to teachers. We constantly organize sessions where we talk to them and we make them understand that you have a responsibility to make this happen. You have a role to change a child. As a matter of fact, one of the documents that I always request from teachers at the end of the term is you are supposed to mention at least one or two children that you know that you have impacted positively. Now, I'm not talking about you have made the child to pass exam. I'm glad that Kemi mentioned that. You see, teachers must understand that your role as a teacher is not just to make your students pass exam. That's the least of what we do as teachers. There are other issues. There are other areas that, you see, I see teachers as custodians of the future. Okay, so your role is beyond making students pass exam. And so teachers must provide that enabling environment. So number two, we also involve teachers. Now, one of the things I've found out, Mr. Peace, is the fact that many a times we come up with policies and we force them down the throat of teachers to start implementing. And it won't work. You see, policies become easier to implement when teachers are involved in the process of formulating it. So we must get teachers involved in the formulation of policies. So as a school, we have to come together to look at issues holistically to say, okay, what are the issues we have in this school? What are the problems that you have noticed? What are the complaints? What are the things that your students have told you? Let's come together, let's brainstorm. What can we do to solve the problem? And then you see teachers coming up with ideas. Do you understand? And so when teachers are involved in this process, they are able to go into the classroom to implement because they were involved while doing that. Do you understand? So we must involve teachers. We must get teachers involved in the formulation of policies. And of course, the other things that I probably would have talked about, Kemi already talked about it, the need for EDC. I'm going to round up right now so that we can give time for other people to speak. Being a school principal, I can tell you that we have a lot of work to do with our teachers' mindset. Teachers must begin to make the move to change. Teachers must begin to deliberately and intentionally change status quo and change reality. We cannot give things to chances. You see, most of the time when we ask teachers to do something, before you even finish talking, they're already telling you it is not possible. You know, you're already getting feedback that this is difficult, all of those things, but I won't want to waste so much time on that. But we must get teachers to change the mindset that, you see, things are achievable. Every change that we see today was conceived by somebody. And so we must begin to make the change happen as teachers. It is doable. We can change the narrative. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. That is coming from somebody who knows it. He's a principal of a school in Abuja, and I'm sure those are useful strategies for anybody who is a school manager in the room now. If you're a principal, if you're a school owner, if you're a head teacher, these are principles that you can use to embed social and emotional learning in the school environment. And I'm glad to hear that he supports the need for SEL to be created in environment, because one of the roles that teachers play is to get students to pass exams. But like you rightly said, that's a list. That's a list of your role. There's so much more. There's the social side of that child. There's the emotional side of that child that has to be paid attention to. And so thank you so much for those thoughts. Now, very quickly, we're going to round off by asking each of the speakers just one question in less than 30 seconds. Just tell us, because the people we have in the room now, the quality of panelists we have in the room, one of them is a seasoned and astute teacher, Ms. Kemi. One of them is a professional principal, that's Mr. Oluwaseyi. And then of course, we have a consultant who can speak to teachers. Now, so we're going to have Mr. Biono speak about teachers, Ms. Kemi speak about students, and then Mr. Oluwaseyi speak about the principals and school owners, okay? And what are they going to talk about? Can you tell us one thing, okay, that a teacher can take away now from all this conversation, okay, in terms of how they can be better, how they can better play their role as educators? What can they do? One of the things is to actually attend conferences like this to sharpen themselves. Okay, we've talked about how the roles of teachers have emerged and changed over the years. What can teachers do right now to sharpen themselves to be better educators in this century? In less than 30 seconds, you can do that. And of course, Ms. Kemi will go right on to that to tell us what can teachers, how can teachers prepare students? What one thing in your own practical examples? I follow you a lot on social media. You get a lot of following, a lot of comments. You share a lot of insights about strategies you deploy in the classroom. What one thing, okay, I'm sure there are many things, but what one thing can teachers do for students now to help students sharpen their skill, practical thing? And of course, for Mr. Oluwaseyi, what can managers do? What one thing can they take on now? They are listening to you now. One thing they can take on to do, okay, if there's a parting word that you want to give to them, that they can do to create that environment. You've said a lot, but if you have the opportunity to share one more, what would it be? Let's go with Mr. Biodun first of all now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone that has shared insight. Asking people to do just one thing is tough, but I will stay with this one thing. I would ask every teacher to become more mission-minded. Mission-minded. It's something we are pursuing in an organization that, like we all agree, teaching is not because you want to make people pass exams. There is a deeper sense of mission. It has to be an awesome being you are trying to create and build for the world, because you do not know what that child can do or become. And with or without you in that subject, you want to say, what difference can this child make? And how much can I be conscious of this mission of building for the future that I am called to do? Not alone. You can teach to earn, really. You can make it all about salary and all about your survival. When people become mission minded, they literally lose their survival sense, because they know survival is the least expression of our living. And we don't become our best when all we are trying to just do is to put body and soul together. We've got to see this mission of raising the next generation as a honorable one that you are trying to do. But more importantly, that if you do not do it, we are all at risk in the future, no matter how we do with other children. And we can increase our capacity based on that mission mindedness. Like that, you can become more relationship based instead of commanding every teacher. You can have a deeper sense of every student. I mean, you can build relationship across the board. You can have a higher sense of achievement. You can also understand how money works and how you're going to teach that. Your thinking can be altered. You can pursue excellence if we become only more mission minded as teachers.
Amazing.
Like that.
Wow.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Profound thought. And I was really inspired by what you were speaking. It got me to start thinking about the need for teachers to also redefine themselves. You get employed in a school, and the school gives you their vision, their mission, their core values. Okay. I'm working with a school now to help them develop and craft those things. Okay. But beyond that, do you have a vision as a teacher? Okay. What's your own vision as a teacher? What's your own mission as a teacher? What are your own core values? Okay, if there's something you want to take out from this session today, okay, you want to sit down and ask yourself this question. What is my vision? What do I want to achieve? And like Mr. Bioda has rightly said, what's my mission? What do, at the end of each session, and Mr. Sheyi also echoed that, what do you want to achieve? Okay, and then what are your core values that will guide the accomplishment of that vision? Powerful one, powerful one. Thank you so much, Mr. Biodo. Over to you now, Ms. Kemi. Let's hear from the side of students. What can we do for students?
Okay, 30 seconds, yeah. What can every teacher do for your students? I think it's to give your students a voice. Give them a voice, empower them now, not just when it comes to expressing themselves, like just speaking, whether it's writing, just doing things that will enable your students have a voice. When it comes to promoting of discussion-based tasks, asking open-ended questions, getting students to just express themselves in different ways, role-playing scenarios, teaching students in a way that what they are learning is personally relevant to them. It's not just abstract, it's not just theoretical, assessing them based on their learning patterns, their interests, doing things that align with their intelligences. So I think that's it for me. 30 seconds.
Wow, I get excited hearing these terms and terminologies because these are the things that, for the past 3 years now, I've been studying the field of SEL. I have hundreds and hundreds of resources on social and emotional learning. And whenever I hear speakers begin to hit on these terminologies, giving students a voice, that's a profound one. Students need to be heard more. Okay, gone are the days where you're just the one standing in front of the classroom and they hear from you only. Sometimes get the students to teach. Okay, let them speak. We don't want students that at the end of 4, 5 years, 6, 7 years in school, they are not competent to stand in front of people, to present, to talk, to interact, to collaborate. Okay, so give your students a voice. That's a profound one. Thank you very much, Ms. Kemi, for that. Okay, let's hear from Mr. Sheyi now about the school owners, principals. One thing for them.
Okay, thank you. It's a common knowledge that you can't give what you don't have. In the same way, emotionally unstable teachers cannot produce emotionally stable students. And so, for us as a school, or for school owners, we must ensure that we have a set of emotionally stable teachers. We must have a set of teachers. We must understand that teachers have emotions. We must treat teachers and make them understand that they deserve to be loved, to be cared for, and to be valued, not to be fired at any instance of anything. Okay, so we must, if you want teachers to produce students that are stable emotionally, then we must produce teachers. We must create an enabling environment for teachers to be stable emotionally. Thank you.
Wow, profound, profound. If you want teachers to be emotionally competent enough to handle students, you also, from top, bottom, top down, create the right environment for teachers, okay, to ensure that they are also emotionally comfortable, okay? You want them to practice all of these things, okay? If you're a school owner listening to us now, please create the right, don't fire them, don't speak to them harshly, respect them, mutual respect them, speak to them kindly. You're partners in the business. Okay, there are schools where, the owner of the school just speaks harshly, speaks roughly, disrespects. The fact that someone is a teacher in your school now is not a reason to insult them. It's not a reason to look down on them. Somebody who's a teacher now can become anything. I think Mr. Biodun pointed that out. So you can start off as a teacher somewhere, and then before you know it, the person is a permanent secretary, is a commissioner of education, and then begins to shut down your school. That's the way the world works. Sometimes you harm somebody, and then before you know it, the person is above you. So you have to treat people with respect. And that's a basic principle. A school owner, pay fees on time. That's another one. Pay fees on time on people. They depend on the salaries, okay? There's people who pay the next month is when you're paying salaries. So many issues. But it all boils down to the fact that make sure that your teachers, they are emotionally okay, their mental health, okay, they're okay, they are happy whenever they are going to have to come to work every day. They're happy, they're excited to want to work with these students in this school. Okay, they are proud to be associated with the brand. Okay, thank you very much for those fabulous thoughts. I want to say a big thank you to all those 3 speakers. Mr. Biodu, thank you, fabulous thoughts. I've gleaned a lot. And one of the benefits of having to hold conferences is that you get to learn from the different wisdom of everybody. At the time you are presenting again and training, you have gathered thoughts from different perspectives. Thank you, Miss Kemi. Hearing you is very refreshing. If you can follow Miss Kemi, she posts a lot on social media. There's a lot of resources from her page that you can glean from. And then Mr. Sheyi, my brother, thank you so much for all you do over there. And then everybody, thank you all for listening and being actively part of this conversation. Okay, I want to say thank you once again to all the speakers. who have been part of the session from beginning, all the speakers, starting from my lecturer and my mentor, Dr. Adeosun. And of course, we had the panel session, Mr. Fani also joined in, and then Mr. Emmanuel Runagbe, and then of course, Ms. Shiwani Odiji, and Kemi Ogunsoya Oluwaseyi Opeyemi, and then Bjorn Kolawole. Thank you so much, sirs and ma, for lending your voice to this all-important conversation. As we begin to round off, apologies for taking your time. I just want to share with us what we intend to take, because we can talk and talk and talk, and that's the end of it, okay? Everybody goes back. School has finished, for example, now school has closed for the session till September before we resume again, and all of these things. The importance of all this conversation is so that we can take action, okay? So I want to encourage us to take action. If there's something you've learned from the conference today, write it down and say, okay, from next term, from next session, if you're a school owner, as a teacher, I want to begin to practice some of these things, okay? And for us as a foundation, there is more we're actually looking to do, okay? One of the ways we work is we advocate for social and emotional learning. Okay, we ensure that people know about these things. That's one of the ways, that's one of the things we're doing right now by holding this conference, okay? Because it's a new field, okay? Even though it's here and there, it's hidden curriculum, but we advocate for it, okay? On our social media platforms. Also, we have support and partnerships, okay? We partner with state government, partner with schools. If you want us to come to your school to train your teachers on these things, okay, we support, we provide those kind of support, okay, with different institutions and organizations. And of course, we build a community, okay? If you have not registered for this conference, okay, please do register, because your registration also allows you to be part of the MarkWillows Foundation community. You get to learn, you get to receive constant insights, okay, about the field of SEL. We send mails every week to expand. So with that, we're building a community, okay? We're partnering, okay? We have people who are also professionals. You can want to teach Delta State, we want to do a number of things here and there. We build a connected community. And then of course, we want to be a resource center. We want to be known as one of the biggest resource center on SEL in Nigeria. That is one of the ways we work. We want to build a bank. Right now, I have hundreds of resources, articles, documents on SEL. So we want to provide access to current and cutting-edge information, okay? And so how do we do this? We do this through 7 ways, okay? As a company, we do this through 7 ways. One of these is to hold a conference. This is what we're doing right now, the National SEL Conference, okay? Another way is that we partner with faculties of education, okay? I mean, Dr. Adeosun has been very kind in that. I'm supposed to also have a presentation at Faculty of Education, University of Lagos sometime soon. And we hope to also partner with faculties of education across the country, because teacher training is very important. All of these things, we need to put it down there and begin to train teachers from the ground before they become teachers. So we partner with the Faculty of Education to bring SEL to their neighborhood. We also begin to develop curriculum. We develop curriculum, myself, Mr. Anifowoshi and Kemi, we're working on the curriculum right now to develop curriculum that embed SEL. So you're an English language teacher. How can I teach English language with SEL in mind, okay? And of course, Dr. Adeosun is helping us to fine tune that document. And that is something that is ongoing. Also, we want to have what is called the SEL certification for teachers, where teachers undergo 6 to 9 weeks training on SEL. Okay, we can't cover all the different sites in a conference of 2-3 hours. Okay, we have a certification course that is going to be in the works, and some of you that have been part of this conference will get to be part of that when it's time, especially if you belong to our community and you get mails from us. Also, we want to establish soft skills clubs in universities. University students need to develop soft skills to prepare them for the job market. And also in secondary schools, we need to teach soft skills. Some of these secondary school students, they do not go into university. Immediately after secondary school, they begin to work. They begin to take on one role or the other. So they need to learn soft skills before they start anything. And then lastly is our social media platforms, traditional and social media, okay? We want to advocate for these things, okay? So follow us on social media. If you're not, if you're online, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, at MarkWillows FDN, that's our social media page. Okay, you can see it on your screen. Follow us. You can see some of the highlights from this conference are already being posted. In the subsequent weeks, we are going to be sharing a lot of insights about the field of social and emotional learning, as well as soft skills. Okay, and then that's our website. Some of the resources from our from this session, okay, will be hosted on our website. If you go to our website right now, you're going to be able to download some very amazing resources on SEL. Okay, a lot of resources are available on SEL. That you can download, including the slides from Dr. Adeosun. That will be put much later today or tomorrow. Okay, so you can download and read up and learn. Okay, we live. This is an age where before we used to say it's an information age. This information is advanced now. The age of information is advanced now. You can get anything with the click of a button. And so you have a responsibility to keep developing yourself and sharpening yourself. Okay, that being said, I want to thank you all once again for joining this session. We have come to the end of the National Social and Emotional Learning Conference. Apologies that we took just a bit beyond time, but I believe it was value for your time, okay? Follow us on social media, keep the conversation going. If you are part of, if you register for this conference, you're going to be hearing from us subsequently. The next thing after this is our SEL certification course for teachers, okay? Where we're going to be training teachers on SEL over a period of time. We're going to be training them on different aspects of social and emotional learning, social awareness, self-awareness, okay, how you manage yourself, how you connect, how you teach these things in the classroom, practical strategies, all of these things that some of the speakers shared, okay? All of these things will be discussed, okay, at the SEL certification course. So please do well to follow us on social media and connect with us on our different platforms, okay? We may not be able to take questions now. Some of you will have questions, but please do well to send the questions to us, okay, in our mail, okay? Our email address is info@MarkWillowsFoundation.com. info@MarkWillowsFoundation.com. Okay, our social media channels, okay, it's been posted there at MarkWillows FDN, okay, on social media. Yes, that's our social media page. And then www.MarkWillowsFoundation.com. You see a host of our different executive committee that have played different roles. I want to thank some of them that have shown up here in the room. We have Miss Adiola, also Mrs. Adiola in the room. We have Mr. Shola George Taylor also in the room. These are some of our executive committee members that have shown up here. We also have Ms. Korede Omolenyiwa, okay? And then of course, Ms. Olayinka Adebayo, who anchored the first session. These are people that have been very helpful in laying the foundation for this massive work that we want to get involved with in Nigeria. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in. I will hand over to the anchor now to just say final words and conclude the session since she kicked it off, okay? So I'll be rounding off. Now, please share comments, feedback in the chat room as we're taking pictures in the comment room. How you have found this session, please, let's take, I'll be taking pictures of your comments, okay? Even as I hand over to the anchor now to finally close the session, okay? And please post your comments. We're taking pictures in the chat room, okay? And please start following us on social media, okay? Over to you now, anchor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bamidele, for anchoring that session. It was amazing. Thank you very much to all our panelists. Thank you to the executive committee team. Thank you to the board members. Thank you to the chairman. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for indulging us, for waiting till now. It's been amazing, and we appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you at other conferences and to seeing you take the SEL certification course. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.